Hello and welcome all in this video. So we are going to discuss about the first chapter of class 11th biology, that is living world. In that living world, we have to focus in the first point, or the first point, basic principles of life course. So we have to discuss about the basic principles of life, which is the first point in the living world. So in our planet, Earth, they're having so many components, some abiotic components and biotic components. Planet Earth made by abiotic and biotic components. Abiotic components are non-living components and biotic components means living beings or living component, that is living world. The biotic components are obviously the living beings. So why do we call them living and how do they differ from non-living? This is the discussion of today's video. There are so many points. There are so many points or characteristics by which we can define them as living. So in there, some basic principles of life or some characteristics. With the help of that characteristics, we can define that these particular organisms are, that is living organisms, that is biotic organisms. The living beings once produced or born has to survive. This is the first point of the living beings or biotic components, that is they can survive. And for this survival, it needs energy. For energy, it has to perform metabolism. So for getting energy, the energy which is useful for the survivalness of the biotic component or life, they require energy, and energy can be taken with the help of, can be produced with the help of the process. That process is called as a metabolism. For that purpose, they need energy, and that energy is taken from the process. That process is called as metabolism. Metabolism is sum total of all chemical reactions occurring in our body. Metabolism means sum of total all chemical reactions occurring in the body of the living being. That is called as metabolism. This metabolism having two steps, catabolism and anabolism. Catabolism means breaking of complex molecules into their simple one, that is a catabolism. And anabolism means again making of new molecules. So the catabolism is followed by anabolism, and anabolism then followed by catabolism, like this. That is the continuous metabolism process takes place in the body of the living being, and from that metabolism energy is produced, and that energy is useful for the survivalness of the animals and plants or microorganisms. So the living beings once produced or born has to survive. This is the first characteristics of the living being. Second one, organisms show tendency of growth and development. So this is the second characteristics of the living being, that is they can develop, and the growth of that particular organism takes place. They can grow from birth onwards, they can grow and also develop by this. This is not the continuous process for but limited period, but here the increase in mass and increase in number of individuals is the growth of that particular organism. Unicellular organisms also can grow by cell division, that is that organisms are made by single cell. So in that single cell, with the dividation, cell division, they can be grow, their numbers can be grow. But this growth is for a limited time span. The growth is for limited lifespan. Plants can grow for some larger time span. They can uh, grow and develop for larger time span, but the animals particularly having a limited time span. At certain point of time, the molecules or organs or systems of that particular living being can lose their effective working. The working of the systems or the organs or the molecules can be stopped at a particular time, and at that point that organisms becomes older and older, and that is called as aging. The process of aging is continuous takes place of the organisms. That is, as the body loses its capacity to perform metabolism, the organisms can die. When all this process can be, the process of growth is stopped, recovery of the process takes place, and the organisms can die. So for a limited time span, the growth of the organism takes place. But this is one of the characteristics of the living being, that is, growth and development is one of the characteristics by which we can define that particular component is a living component or living organism. Next one point, reproduction. The living organism can reproduce. Each and every organism try to reproduce either by asexual or sexual process. By anyhow, asexual sexual method, they can reproduce and ensures continuity of race, and they can produce more and more organism. But in some cases like moles or worker bees, they cannot reproduce, but they are also living organisms. But the basic concept, basic principle, basic characteristics of the organism, living organism, that the reproduction takes place in that particular organism. Reproduction is one of the characteristics of the living being, and they can reproduce till they can are living being. Any living being can reproduce up to the end of that particular organism lifespan. Next one characteristic, respond. Any living being responds to their surrounding because they are having sensory organs. With the help of the sensory organs, they gives the response to the changes in the surrounding, and this is the unique property of living being. Any living being responds to thermal, chemical or biological changes in the surrounding, that is because they have the sense organs. So these are some characteristics, that is reproduction, giving response to surrounding, growth and development, and survivalness. These are the characteristics of the living being. With these characteristics, we can say that these organisms are living beings. These organisms are biotic, and abiotic organism, abiotic components do not show such a type of characteristics. So these are about these are some points about the basic principles of life.